What is up, everybody? It's the Don with the Don Tech. Thank you so much for joining me on this awesome video experience. What we've got today is a repair that I've done on a Dell Inspiron 17-inch 7773 2-in-1 base laptop. The motherboard has died within it, and it was practically a useless laptop. However, next to me or near me somewhere, I had a Dell Inspiron 13-inch 7368 2-in-1 motherboard. And I wanted to find out, for science and possibly for views, can I take that board out of the 13-inch model and put it into the 17-inch model? And that's what this entire video documents. Quick reminder, you guys, if you want to follow me on Twitch, I am live Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at twitch.tv/uptiltgaming. Link will be in the description down below, and I would love to chat with you guys. For starters, as you can see, I'm getting right into the disassembly process. There's a couple of ribbon cables, a couple of other connection points, and mainly just some screws that need to come out. The repair itself was not that complicated. You do have to be very careful, though, when removing the connections, removing the ribbon cables, keeping well documented everything that you take out and where you put everything. To the left, you can see that I have a magnetic pad, and that's where I mark and put the screws. If I get lost or confused in the reassembly process, I can always rewatch the footage because I'm filming it. But if you're not going to film a repair, make sure you're paying attention to where all the screws go and where all the ribbon cable connections go. The last thing you want to do is do this entire repair and realize you forgot to plug in speakers, Wi-Fi antennas, which actually the Wi-Fi antenna is not affected on this one, trackpad, keyboard, anything like that, because then you're going to have to redo or try to figure out, okay, why is this not working? Another nuance of this particular repair is the Dell 17-inch that's on the screen right now has a dedicated graphics card, and that's the heatsink that I'm attempting to remove at this point. The 13-inch does not have dedicated graphics. Throughout the video as well, you'll notice I try to do as little cuts and as little edits as possible. I did end up taking this video down from about a 36-minute video to whatever size it is now, maybe about 14 minutes or so. But there was a lot of dead space, dead air. I think I might have been interrupted by my cat at one point, not exactly sure. Because I also filmed this video in July of 2020. So we're talking about almost a 2-year-old video at this point. So I'm watching it for the first time that you guys are, pretty much. The information is just as new to me, except I kind of remember doing this repair. When I was doing the recording, I was actually testing a new camera for top-down repairs, and here's going to be a little bit of a zoom up on this video card. I think I wanted to see how the quality is when I do a manual zoom on the lens. It was a Canon EOS M200 mirrorless content creator kit camera that I bought, and I just didn't like the camera at all. I don't think that the color was as good, even though that could have been corrected, and I think at some point later on, you'll see some hand movement because I think the camera overheated. Remember that when disassembling computer equipment, it is very important to keep track of what screws go where. Not only is it to make sure that you get all the screws connected in the correct place, but you also want to make sure that you're using the proper screw lengths. If you don't screw it in all the way, or if you push a screw too far, not only can you damage the casing, but you can also cause a short depending on what screw is going where. And we have success by taking the old motherboard out. You want to be very careful. I know it's off screen. I don't know where I put it. I'm pretty sure I was careful with it. And we're going to take the old case, remove it for now, and we're going to bring in the case of the 14-inch Dell Inspiron. Not 14, 13. It's right on screen. I have one job. Do you know how hard it is to do this one job? So in this bit, I do speed up the camera because I'm practically doing the same exact thing. I'm removing all the components from the 13-inch computer, I'm setting them aside and making sure that they're all properly marked. As a side note, if you're taking out heat sinks, be extra careful to not damage them, because the copper tubing inside of the heat sinks, even if they're dented just a little bit, you can prevent the gas from flowing through the chambers and make it so your computer would overheat. And actually, side note, I did not need to be careful with that previous motherboard because that was the bad motherboard. That's right. Okay, pay attention, Don. Goodness gracious. So now we have the good motherboard. We're handling it very carefully, and I think I move the old chassis out of the way, and then I bring in the new, or well, I guess the new-ish, 17-inch chassis, and I still have the board carefully in my hands. So the next step, you just carefully line up where the screw mounts go, and then you also want to make sure that it's going to line up with the metal cutouts on the side of the case for the ports such as audio, HDMI, USB, anything like that. I'm doing a quick little route to see, all right, where are certain cables going to go? Are the screw-all placements going to be in the same spot? And just kind of getting a general idea of making sure that this repair is going to work. And this footage is going to be the standard non-edited, non-sped up footage, because if you guys are going to follow on how to do the repair, I want you to be able to see where the screws go and if there's any complications that come up during the actual repair. Let me know if you guys have had any problems in the comments down below with this particular model of laptop. I know I've fixed quite a few of them. Right around this point is when the camera started to act up. I throw my hands out, and I don't know for the life of me why. I do know that I had to be quiet when I was recording this video. Normally, if there's a problem or something I need to look up later, I'll create an audio spike. I do have audio ability on this, so I could have possibly snapped, but I chose not to. I just wave my arms like there's a problem. I did notice that this is video file 31. The previous section, right before then, before my hands were flailing, was video file number 30. So that could be when the camera shut off, it overheated, I had to reset something, had to tell it to record again. I don't know, but there was some general frustration, and the only thing I could do is wiggle my hands. So the cables that are going in right now are going to be the touchscreen cable and the video cable itself for the display. If it was a 4K display, it quite possibly might not have worked with this computer, but there were no issues there. At this point is when I'm realizing, okay, there's a little bit of a difference, and I need to go back and get the previous computer. So the daughter boards that connect the trackpad and the keyboard, and I believe maybe the LED light, anything that's all on screen right now, all those connections need to be moved as well because of the cable lengths and the positioning. I believe there are a couple of ribbon cables holding some stuff down, so you want to make sure those are always removed before you try to bring anything up, because if they're not, it can snap or damage the connectors on either side. And especially if you plan on using these later, you want to make sure that they're going to be in good condition. I believe, based on what I'm doing here, this was just held in adhesively. I haven't seen myself use a screw yet. And then that secondary connection should be able to come right out. So I think all I'm getting here is the actual daughter board itself. I don't think I need any of the cables besides the one that's attached right now. Bringing in the Dell 17-inch chassis will allow me to go ahead and move the daughterboard pieces that need to come on over, and allow for the proper connection. And I'm remembering another nuance of this. Okay, so this was like a 95% fix, because after you get everything all plugged in, there will be a little bit of looseness in the ribbon cables, and you will have to finagle some of those cables in place so that way you can close and put the battery on top of those connections. Not desirable, not bad, but it is doable. And again, I'm not doing away with any cuts so that way you guys can see the pain and the struggle and the torment that you have to go through for some things in the computer repair realm. Because not everything is perfect. Nobody's perfect. I've been watching this video for 10 minutes. I know I'm not perfect. But fortunately, since this doesn't go over any critical components and it isn't really required to be tightly laid out for the cabling, that allows for this to happen. If you were doing this in an Apple or something like that, that definitely wouldn't work out because it's such a tightly closed case. I'd always recommend that when you're working with ribbon cables to use a spudging tool if necessary to be able to help you remove some of those. It just kind of depends on how you feel when you're working with your hands versus when you're working with a tool. Some connections are much easier to get out with a tool than with your hands, but if you're very familiar with using your hands, that's not going to be any problems. So finally moving on from that charade of getting all the trackpad and keyboard connection all in there, I can move on to the heatsink. So it looks like what I need to do is use the previous old heatsink. That's going to be because of where the motherboard sits and where the fan sits because of the extended chassis size. So what that does mean is that I actually will have a more powerful heatsink for this processor than I had previously, and that should help keep the temperatures down. And as you can see, there's no dedicated graphics chip, so we're not even going to put that back in there, and I don't even think there's any room for it to fit. This portion was really funny. I'm rewatching the footage, and I'm like, what am I trying to do? What am I trying to figure out? It's like, okay, I don't know where the fan goes. So to try to figure that out, I'm going to plug in other things, which in this case is just an I/O daughterboard that connects the USB and the Wi-Fi on the side, and then eureka, I find where the fan goes. It's kind of hidden. It's just like right there, and I just couldn't find it. Now we move on to the power on test, and this is like sped up like 800 times because it was not coming back up. When the CMOS battery has been disconnected and the battery's disconnected, sometimes Dell has to go through its own pre-check test. But once we finally get it up there, I do my thumbs up again, and you can see that we have power. I'm gonna do a touchscreen test, shut it down, and then we're going to install the battery. Now the battery will lay on those cables that weren't quite flush, and we'll keep them in place so they won't be moving. Make sure you install all the screws related with the battery. So thank you so much everybody for watching this video. As you can see, it was a success. If you enjoy content like this, please let me know. I'm trying to make very interesting videos for repairs. It is quite complicated. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. Give this video a thumbs up if it was enjoyable for you. You can follow us again over at twitch.tv/uptiltgaming, where we play games Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday at 9 p.m. Central. We would love to talk with you there. This has been the Don with the Don Tech, And remember, the Don's got your back.